Hey Assassins, Gargudon here with a short intro just to lay everything out quickly before episode 19 of the Memory Corridor kicks off. Me and everyone at the ones who came before are very well aware of the current state of the Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft community, and we are also aware that there is a lot of anger towards the company and their products given how new grim details surrounding the aftermath of the internal Ubisoft scandal last summer has reached the public. Therefore, we know today might not be the best and most appropriate time to share this new episode, but given this was recorded before any headlines reached the spotlight, we wanted to put this out regardless instead of delaying it likely indefinitely. No matter what, enjoy episode 19 of the Memory Corridor starting now. Hello Assassins, Gargudon here, and welcome to episode 19 of the Memory Corridor here on The Ones Who Came Before. Today we are doing the third retrospective look at older Assassin's Creed titles, focusing today on the two Assassin's Creed titles from 2014, Rogue and Unity. Joining as guest is AC in-game photographer Armin, better known as Mentor.Captures across social media. And just before we jump into it, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do here in the AC community.
Hey, thanks first, Gustav, for having me here. As you said, I'm a virtual photographer. I do photographies from the Assassin's Creed games, all of them.
Yeah.
And I've been in the community for like 3 years now. And yeah, we're doing it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and links to Armin's social media pages will be in the description below, so you can check out some of his pictures should you be interested in that. So yeah. Now, with all introductions out of the way, let's go back to the latter half of the 18th century and do this retrospective. So the first thing I would like to cover is, what were some of your favorite and least favorite elements about AC, Rogue, and Unity, in terms of, among other factors, story, characters, and gameplay? And let's start talking about Rogue for a little bit, then we can move on to Unity.
So I should talk about Rogue right now, like story, gameplay stuff?
Yeah, just whatever, like, made Rogue awesome for you. Like, I've been replaying it here, the remastered version, over the last few months, and I've just rediscovered how great it is. Like, everything, sure the story is short, but it is one of the most powerful and best written stories in the AC franchise. I don't know if you can agree with me on that.
The story is really amazing, you know?
Yeah, because it's so different, and because it's darker, perhaps, and just because it, brilliantly portrays the assassins as the bad guys, actually. The otherwise heroes that we've known for, 7 years at that point, are portrayed as, hypocrites and power mongers, and the Templars, for once, are portrayed as, like, the honorable people. And that is just what I love about it. Like, throughout the story, you're rooting for the Templars, in a way. You're rooting for Shay, I'd rather say.
Exactly, yeah, it's same here, I really like it, like how it really is about the rogue story, it really is about the rogue story. Like, they betray you or some kind of that, and Shay joins the Templars, and as you said, they really show that, like, the assassins that you guys liked for years, they can be bad guys too, right?
Yeah. And the story was, as I said, very short, but it was really great, and Shay is a brilliant character. Because, even as he gets more involved with the Templars, he's conflicted about it, Like, for a long time, he's kind of like, I don't really know if I can support this, like, total control ideology that the Templars stand for, but I can't help the assassins either. And, that's it. Shay, really, before he knows it, is caught up in this, like, Templar inner circle before he knows it. Then he, talks with Colonel Monroe. Then before he knows it, he meets, can't remember his name, like that technician guy. And then before he knows it, he's in league with the Grand Master Hatham.
Yeah.
And, and suddenly the assassins find out that he's alive and he's coming to kill all of them, and then there's no way back for Shay.
It was also pretty fun to see familiar faces like Hatham or Franklin or even Achilles.
Yeah, Achilles. Yeah, that's the thing with Achilles, who we otherwise, from AC3, knew as this old, wise, maybe a bit stubborn man. But throughout Rogue, he's portrayed as, I guess, what's the word? Stubborn, maybe? And hypocritical until the end,
Exactly.
where he realizes Shay was right.
Mm,
And it's sad that it took all those earthquakes and the death of everybody, Adewale and all those people for him to realize that. Um,
he
but then,
really made his luck,
yeah, and that's also it. The different assassins you see throughout. You remember those? There's what's her name, Hope. There's Kazakawase. There's what's his name, De la Vérendrye, I think, a French captain. And then there's Liam
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Achilles. I think those are the main five. What is it? De la Vérendrye and Kazakawase, who were always, to Shay. Like killing them felt good. They really undermined him. And even among the assassins, Shay was always kind of an outsider.
Yeah,
Like the only really real reason he got involved was because of Liam, his best friend, who got involved with him, and then Shay kind of automatically did so. Other than that, Shay, yeah, the Creed was never for Shay.
yeah, it really wasn't, his type of work, I guess.
Yeah, and then after that incident in Portugal with the earthquake, he just knows, like, I can't, the assassins are power mongers and they have to be stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, overall, despite it being short, every aspect of Rogue's story was just, I want to say, perfect.
It's really one of my favorite stories across the franchise.
Yeah, it really, really was. And and as I said, I've just been falling in love with it again recently as I've been replaying it. The story and then the open world as well, it's great. Like, the map is so diverse. Like, there are so many, like, you have the North Atlantic, River Valley, and New York, all of which are big locations with so many different nooks and crannies. And there's so many diverse, beautiful, photogenic environments. Like, I got, so many currently myself, unused Rogue shots I've been taking and such. It's such a beautiful game.
And then it doesn't have a fail, it's one of its disadvantages.
It doesn't. So my go-to trick there is just, kind of stand up against a tree or wall or whatever, and then kind of, mess with the camera until, like, Shay's out of the picture. And you can get some good shots, but
for Unity.
Yeah, the other thing would be easier. Especially if you wanted pics of Shay in one of his, like, cool assassin killer outfits or something, but
the first person tool would be handy, but we didn't have it. That's
yeah. Right. But yeah, the map and environments of Rogue were just brilliant. Mm-hmm. They really, really were. Yeah. There was everything from, the North Atlantic, snow caves and icy mountains to, huge, rich forests. A little more south to the city in New York, and it was just brilliant. It really, really was.
Exactly.
So yeah, in a lot of ways, and I think for a game like Rogue, which was, much smaller in scale compared to other titles, and from how I understand it, was it in 2014 kind of released for, back then, old gen, kind of just to those who maybe hadn't switched to new gen yet and couldn't get Unity, but, they wouldn't be left out and still had an AC game?
That was the goal, actually.
Yeah, that might have been, like, that may not have been, like, the only intention, but it might have been there with it,
Mm-hmm. And this thing is really pains me because it didn't let Rogue evolve. It could have been a very better game. It's already a good game, but it could have been a very better game because it has potential, especially the story.
Absolutely, and that's what I say. For a game that was much smaller in scale, the story was only also half the length a normal AC story is, and it was made by one of the smaller Ubisoft studios. It was Ubisoft Sofia.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still was really grand, and as I said, everything from gameplay to maps to story to ideas, it was really well pulled off, and I think it's higher on my AC ranking list than I may otherwise have put it. So yeah, Rogue was just overall great, to say the very least. So many fun aspects about it.
Yeah, and I really love how they connected the ending to Unity. That was brilliant.
Yeah, and that was also the brilliance of the two 2014 games. Rogue kind of ends where the next one chronologically begins.
Exactly.
Um, so that was really awesome. And with that, why don't we move on to Unity? Because as I said, Rogue, there is so much as you can hear to talk about with Rogue, but maybe the game is just so great that it speaks for itself in a way. And also, as I said, it's smaller in scale, so maybe there isn't as much to talk about, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rogue was just really great in so many different ways, and I want to say it's a sleeper AC game in some way. Maybe. Yeah,
Agree.
perhaps. But unless we can always come back to Rogue here if it is. So let's just move on to Unity, which was the bigger and the main AC event of 2014. So let's move on to that. What were some of your favorite aspects of that?
My most favorite aspect, as I said many times by now, is the parkour. It's just phenomenal.
The absolutely the free running system. Unity introduced a much needed revamp of the free running system.
Exactly.
The
animations,
it was
really beautiful.
it was so much more cleaner and so much more agile. You could do anything. It may have been a little supernatural at points, maybe.
Sometimes.
Suddenly Arno would just, without any pre jumps, just make a 2-meter jump or something while scaling the wall. But who cares? It was brilliant, the free running system.
Yeah.
And other than that, I think Unity gets way too much hate. It's brilliant.
Currently, right now, it's completely vice versa. I don't know why, but people are starting to realize that what a gem Unity was.
Yeah,
it was ahead of its time at release, but it's now better right now.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's almost and I definitely see that from different people. So, latest yesterday, I saw Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox. He tweeted out a picture that he was playing, I think, Unity on the Xbox Series X at 60 FPS, and maybe you saw that too. And
that's
I also,
dream. I really have to play it on 60 frames per second. The PlayStation doesn't support it.
And I also see from other, people throughout the AC community that it's almost now, here, 6-7 years later, it's really getting the love it always needed to have.
Exactly.
And that can be a mix of many different things, because I wasn't playing AC at the time when it came out, but some of my friends did, and I was, following gaming on the internet, and it had the worst launch ever, from how I understand it.
Yeah, exactly. The launch was one of the things that people hated the game.
Yeah, some people say that it was unplayable for some. There were so many bugs and technical glitches, and, it was unplayable.
The faces.
Yeah. With the, where they were, their face was gone, and it was only eyes and mouth. So creepy. Yeah, that was pretty wild. But yeah, so yeah, it had a terrible launch, but then maybe after a few years, now the dust has settled, and now it's really getting all the love it was always meant to get, and that's awesome. That it's kind of I think you call it that it retrospectively becomes a household title.
Exactly. That's really it is one of my favorite Assassin's Creed. One of the top. It's the third best game for me. Unity.
Yeah. I don't know quite where I would place it if we were to rank it, as you said, but I think it's definitely higher. And what was it? The first time I played it was late 2017, actually, after Origins, and that was really great for me because I wasn't back then. I think I've said this before, but I wasn't that excited for Origins really. But I still decided to pick it up, just to see what it was. But I fell off of it very quickly. The whole RPG. Tone just wasn't for me. So going back to older AC titles I hadn't played, in this case Unity, was a gift. just the memory sequences and the varied gameplay and the traditional free running and all that stuff. It was just the old AC formula that was a gift. That really was a gift. Going back to that after having been let down by the new direction of AC. But yeah, Unity is just great. Can we talk about the story for a second, like the main story? Because while I wouldn't say it was necessarily great and not explored to its full potential, it definitely wasn't bad either.
I really like the idea of the story, like a assassin fell in love with a Templar. That was really great.
That was really cool. And hell, you were in Paris, the city of love and whatnot. So obviously you had to have like a classic love story there.
I know, right? Yeah.
But it worked really well, and the whole chemistry between Arno and Elise was definitely one of the story's strongest factors. And we see,
and it would have been better, the things that got revealed last year, the whole project of Unity.
Stuff that's very controversial that maybe we shouldn't get too heated over. And let's talk about that for a second, actually. What was it that Elise was supposed to be playable for some of the story, or like a full playable character? Which one was it?
I guess she was going to be, in some places of the story, not the whole.
Yeah.
Not like AEV Syndicate.
Yeah. While I see it could have been cool and it could have worked, I just don't know if there would have been any real reason for it. Do you know what I mean?
I actually think it would have helped, for a better ending for her,
maybe for a better dynamic. But if anything, like just playing as her, scripted in certain missions, that would have been maybe a little too restraining. Then I would have it like you could maybe switch between her and Arno like any time throughout the story. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously when she gets killed off at the end, like then you can't play as her anymore. Kind of like if you've played Red Dead Redemption. Have you played those? Yeah, kind of like maybe a little like that. You really just switch playable character. At one point in the story, then Arthur dies, and then before you know it, you're in shock, and I'm like, no, I don't want to play as John. Go back to Arthur right now. Yeah. Even though in Red Dead Redemption 1, I was like, no, I don't want to play as John, or I don't want to play as Jack. Go back to John. And then when I have John again, I'm like, no, go away.
That suddenly becomes a remake of Red Dead Redemption 1.
And I would like, just overall, to maybe see that concept applied to AC at some point, that you maybe, play as one character throughout most of the story, but then at the ending, that character gets killed off, and maybe you're, that character's sidekick or child or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, Elise, like, just to get back to that, I will say it could have been cool to play as her, but then again, like, from what we saw, she was never really agile in free running and whatnot, so I'm a bit skeptical as to if it would have worked.
That's actually, I think, the problem. Because we didn't see how it would work out if she was going to be playable.
Yeah, like, it's almost like we should have done that to fully have an opinion on it. I know what you mean.
Exactly, yeah.
But still, and let's not get too much into that, but the whole thing that came out last summer, that she was cut for time due to, what was it, controversial marketing strategies. That was
hard to work about.
That was still not cool. That was really weird. Because if anything, I'm like, if I can play as a female character, I absolutely want to, just because I'm so used to male characters.
Same.
Yeah, but then again, I wouldn't have wanted to have felt too forced or anything like that.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah, just to get back to like the main story as we talked about, like, yeah, the Arno, as you said, the Arno and Elise chemistry was definitely one of the stronger factors of the game, and the way we, that. They were almost in love from when they were children, meeting in Versailles for the first time.
Yeah.
And then we see them, they were, they grew up together and whatnot, and And that was it. Even though we didn't see much of them during their their teens and whatnot, it still felt very real. When we saw suddenly they're lovebirds when they're in their early 20s. It still worked.
Yeah, I was I care about them.
Yeah, I did too, and yeah, it worked definitely, and overall that whole I guess it was a revenge story overall. Arno getting framed for the murder of Elise's father, and the two of them teaming up for to find what's his name, Chamon, who was the main Templar.
Yeah,
that was really cool, and overall that whole an assassin and Templar setting aside their differences. Fully working together. I love that. That was a really interesting concept, and it's something I would love to see more of.
That's the spotlight of Unity's story.
Yeah, as I talked about in the last episode, that was about AC3. We saw a little bit of it in that game. When Hatham and Connor put their differences aside for a sequence. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But then again, they were very quickly off to each theirs, and Connor ends up killing him, and so it was cool to see full out that that they were working together, and how they were even willing to leave their cause to be with the one they love. That was also an interesting concept.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. But as I said, there were throughout the story there were a lot of interesting aspects, but it was the only, even though AC stories overall are short, it was the only only AC game I played where I feel like this story's too short. I don't know if you felt the same way.
It kind of felt short. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it could have been just maybe one extra memory per sequence, or two in some cases would have done it justice. But every sequence alone was very short, and perhaps it felt a little mechanical at points. It was only 2 or 3 memories per sequence, and they were great, and they were lengthy memories, so there was playing time. But overall, I wouldn't have minded it being a little bit longer and maybe exploring some aspects.
It kind of acted like Brotherhood.
Further.
Brotherhood is also a little short memory parts.
Yeah, overall, every game, after AC2, because AC2's campaign was that was long. That was 100 plus missions or something. After then, they were only around 40 to 50 memories. If they were half the length of AC2, all games after that. So yeah, but yeah, as I said, maybe parts of Unity's story was a little short at points, and some parts of it could have been explored further and have been built upon. But overall, I really liked it.
I especially like the idea, not the whole story, how it turned out, but the idea, as I said, a Templar falling in love with an assassin. That was a good point.
Absolutely, and that was, as I think we can both agree on, the strongest factor was not only the chemistry between Arno and Elise, but that whole concept. Them, sworn enemies putting aside their differences for something bigger.
Exactly.
And how all of that tied in, and from how I remember it, how all of that tied into the French Revolution, its historical time period was pretty cool pulled off pretty cool.
Yeah. The atmosphere and the visuals.
Yeah,
perfect.
I guess with that we can move on to talking about the map itself, Paris. I really like that map. It was, even though it was only in the city, it was so diverse, and it was beautifully animated, and parts of it were really photogenic.
I'm pretty crowded.
Yeah, oh yeah, super crowded.
Yeah.
Super crowded. Everything from Notre Dame to other squares, and it was brilliant. The map was just really cool to explore, and if anything, I think about that. Pretty cool to just free run around.
Yeah.
Scale everything from buildings to whatnot.
The animations make it even better.
Yeah, and what was it? The catacombs as well. You know, that whole like map underneath the city. That was awesome. And that had this very ominous post-medieval vibe to it that I really loved. That was something that I love about Unity overall was, you know, even though it was set during the late 1700s in the Age of Enlightenment, how much of it was like, how many like post-medieval vibes there were to it. You know what I mean?
Speaking of medieval, I actually really like the beginning. You know, playing as a
Templar, there's the prologue set in what 1307 at the temple where you're a Templar who, what is it? He hides the Sword of Eden that, you know, would later play a central role in the story like 500 years later.
And then he gets assassinated by Thomas de Carnelian.
Thomas de Carnelian. Now I'm speaking French all of a sudden. That was a pretty cool prologue, and with and you know, that was historically, from what I know, with what's his name, Jacques de Molay, you know, getting burned at the stake. That was when the Templars, like in real history, died out. But
that was accurate.
But here, you know, that is just when they went underground.
Exactly.
And the Templars, like that we know from later AC games, are formed. So, yeah, that whole prologue, even if it didn't have that much to do with the later game, other than, you know, the Sword of Eden being hidden, that would you know, everybody would be on the hunt for 500 years later. It was still pretty cool, and you know, it was a great introduction to, like, short introduction to kind of the new combat mechanics and free running mechanics and whatnot. Yeah, overall that was just that was a cool little thing, and Carnelian's outfit was beautiful. It was, you know, Altair's robes but in navy, pretty much.
And the fact that you could obtain it later in the game, that was something else.
Can we talk about that for a second? That was the Nostradamus Enigmas. That was a pretty cool gameplay element. Those riddles. And, it was pretty cool.
Assassin's Creed, you know, like the ones we had with Altair's armor back then.
Yeah. And I like the whole, like, mystery, like, kind of detective vibe, detective elements of that mission. And for some, I don't know if you did the same, you know, I had to look up IGN's guides to kind of help me with them. But sometimes, in some cases, if you really used your brain, you could figure it out.
Yeah.
And the thing with it was, like, you know, with, I think all of them, like, if you find it at, let's say you find one, you know, the first sign, the first clue at Notre Dame, you know, the next clue is in the area. You know, you don't have to go to the other end of the map. So that was it. Like, if you really just used your head,
and pay attention,
you could solve them just with your head. But yeah, overall, I like those. That was a fun, cool addition, and yeah, Carnelian's armor was beautiful. So overall, gameplay wise, I just think there was a big variation in gameplay in Unity.
They completely changed, you know, a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's really, you know, how can I say, it's really French, you know, with class and like that. The sword, the everything is like that. Yeah,
like, as you said, some of it was, like, copied from previous games, like, you know, collectibles, the overall formula. But then again, there were, like, the Enigmas, for example, and the murder mysteries. Like, there were some new additions, like, new type of side missions we hadn't really seen in previous games. And then there was, of course, which, hell, the whole title of the game is based on, there was the co-op.
Yeah,
I mean, Unity refers to that band of assassins that never really plays a role in the main story, but does in the co-op. So, yeah, that was maybe a bit odd, but
they're really good. The co-op missions, the heists, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent some time in co-op. Like, I haven't spent that much time in it, actually. And if I have, I've probably mostly been playing them by myself. And you know, that has been for everything, you know, collectibles I wanted, or hoods, or whatever. But when I have tried it with others, it works. And it definitely worked, that whole co-op element of it, and that was really fun. And yeah, it was...
It really worked beautifully.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to add, you know, all those things, you know, from single player. You know, stealth, smoke bombs, staying discreet and whatnot. It was cool to let that rely on others, and you had to work together to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. That point of relying on others was the beautiful point of the co-op in Unity. Like when an enemy detects you, your ally will kill him to, you know, prevent alarms and stuff.
Yeah, and I can't remember all the co-op missions, but I remember a few of them, and that they were pretty fun. Like, there was the Women's March, and the what was it, Protect Napoleon, and you had to rescue the Maricourt, and...
Yeah. There was a museum one, which is the heist.
Oh, yeah, the heists.
Yeah.
I remember those.
I still do that, because it gives you a huge ton of coins.
Yeah, as you say, the heist, you could always replay those, just if you needed to grind some money.
Yeah.
Because money came a long way in Unity. Like, you know, like, there would be one outfit you had to buy for, what, 150,000, and, then you buy that, then you're broke, then you need money for the next 150,000, piece of hardware, and...
Yeah, the prices were pretty high.
But then luckily some of the chests, like, if you found the right ones, there was a lot of coins in that as well.
Yeah, and some of them contained legacy outfits.
Oh yeah, some of them did. That was the yellow chest, is that correct?
Yeah, the yellow.
What were those called? Those were called
Initiate chests.
Yeah, initiate chests, that's right.
Yeah.
A lot of the legacy outfits looked really cool on Arno, and also just the outfits in general. There was that, what was it, the Todd McFarlane version of Arno's outfit? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That looked so cool. And
that was pretty too. Yeah.
And then there were also other cool outfits, but that's another thing that was one of the best things about Unity, was the customization.
Yeah.
It was,
I agree with that.
like, it was like any other great open world game where you can customize every part of your character and, you know, make your look so unique.
Exactly.
That was just so great. I mean, there was something for everybody. Like, if you're kind of like me, if you were kind of like more into coats and, you know, waist capes and such, you could do that. If you were into big hoods, you could do that. And if you were into just more of like you know, just like almost normal wear, just pants and a shirt, you could also do that without big skirts or waist capes or anything. Like, there was something for everybody. Yeah, and
with any style for everyone.
Yeah, and there was the brigand coat, there was the medieval coat, there was the master assassin, there was the phantom musketeer, Napoleon. There was everything. Like, there was something for every taste of fashion.
Exactly.
There really, really was. And I think the last time I played Unity was about 2 months ago now. And I try to switch my outfit as often as possible, just because there's so much I want to wear. But then sometimes I have to save up money to buy that piece, and then I never got to wear it. And then, you know, you could customize your entire outfit and the colors of it, and the customization was
It's really the best customization system, in my opinion.
And weapons, for that matter. Like, if you wanted to carry a huge axe on your back, you could do that, where I am just more of a, like, I was just more of a swords guy, you know, one-handed.
Yeah, same.
The other thing just looked a little stupid.
Especially the rifle ones. Like,
yeah.
You need a rifle?
Yeah, it looked a little funny, like, running around with that huge spear on your back and whatnot, but, yeah. Customization in Unity was just phenomenal. So yeah. But I guess...
To add to that customization, I would say that I think it had the best version of the legacy outfits. Like, each of them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, at that point, what was it? We had Altair, Ezio, Connor, Edward, Shay as well.
Everyone.
And
Except
Shay.
for the 3 RPG games plus Syndicate. And
Yeah.
Shay,
And Shay. Yeah, you could wear Shay's Templar coat as well.
Pretty weird, wearing Shay's outfit.
And then, what was it? Arno's Master Assassin outfit as well.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But yeah, overall, like, there was just so many great things about Unity, and in a way I'm glad it's finally getting the love it always deserved, because even when I started playing it late 2017, I definitely still didn't see as much love for it across the AC community as I do now.
Same.
Yeah, like,
It
it's
still
great,
has
and
its haters right now,
like,
but
it's great
it's getting better.
it's getting the love it always deserved, and it's wild if it can become like the household title it was always meant to be here almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
That would just be beautiful. So, yeah. But I guess other than that, like, other than story, like, gameplay and such, I think we've covered a lot of interesting aspects about Unity and the map and such. Because one final thing I wanted to hear your take on throughout the story. Were there any other, like, memorable characters other than Arno and Elise, would you say? Because I don't really know if there were any, like... Because Jamon, you know, the main villain, he wasn't that interesting, to be completely honest. He was a sage, and that was pretty much his only, like, trade, was that he was a sage.
It really wasn't an interesting character. Like, you have Cesare in the franchise, which is my most favorite villain, but I didn't really like Germain. Yeah,
Chamon, he was kind of a bland villain, to be completely honest. But I think another standout character was Belek. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
From how I understand it, he was kind of this rogue assassin who had kind of lost faith in the Creed, and you know he broke the Creed, and that's why him and Arno have a face-off at one point.
Yeah, he went too far, you know, killing Mirabel.
Yeah, and that was, I guess that was one of the main points of Unity story too, was that from how I understand it, Arno also starts losing faith in the Brotherhood, actually, and the Creed and the restrictions of it. And that alone, there's his epic speech at the end. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We consider ourselves redeemers, avengers, and like, you know, we give our lives for a conflict that will be recorded in no history book, and that was pretty epic.
Yeah.
And you know, there is at that point after that's it. That is when things get interesting. You know, he has the opportunity to kill Jamon, but Elise is there too. And then, you know, he ends up saving her instead of killing him. And then, you know, that is when he really falls out with the Brotherhood, and he heads up to Versailles and starts drinking excessively.
Yeah, and then go through Death King's map. I don't know the name. What's the name? Franco?
Which one?
Death King's city.
Yeah, that was Franciat or Saint-Denis.
Yeah.
We can move on to that in just a second, but I just wanted to say, you know, when he goes back up to Versailles, you know, do you remember that? Like, there's a mission where you're playing drunk. Like, you're literally drunk throughout the whole mission. That was pretty cool. But yeah, that was one of the things I probably would have liked to explore a little more. Would have liked that to have a little more depth in the story. Was that Arno questioning the Brotherhood?
Yeah.
And Arno's just, in general, a character I would love to see again. Because I've said this before, but if, let's say, we were ever to see, like, Connor and Shay again, you know, kind of those two clash in the North Americas, like in the late 1700s, it would be ideal to have Arno there as well. Just because, you know, they're alive at the same time and whatnot.
There is actually a hashtag going on in the community. Give us the Arno sickle. One of my friends.
I'm hopping on board that right now.
Yeah.
Like, I always imagined it in my head, like, you know, kind of Shay one-handedly has put, like, you know, everything Connor spilled to the brink, and, you know, he needs help. So he calls, you know, whoever in Europe is available for help.
Yeah,
that would be Arno.
To mention, the guy who started the campaign is Mentor 4059, along with Shadow Rider. Because I want to, you know, say their names. They are the owners.
Oh yeah, okay. Right.
Let me find. Oh yeah, Shadow Underline Barrier 003 alongside with Mentor 4059. Yeah, they actually made up the hashtag. Give us the Arnold sequel.
Oh yeah, I'll have to hop on board that. And then
Yeah.
combine it with Connor and Shay sequels as well. Then we have a slam dunk.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. But other than that, like I think that is everything for the main story. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, exactly.
Then here at the end, I would just like, as you said, quickly to talk about Dead Kings, the expansion. What's your take on that?
It's another sad story for our sad boy Arno. You know, it's like he's really depressed. We're seeing people similar to Elise, all that stuff, and there's actually more Easter stuff in the Dead Kings.
Yeah, there was. Story. Yeah, I don't quite understand what the whole, like, ghost of Saint Denis, like, those underground beams or whatever, if that was Isu tech or if that was something else. Like, it didn't look like Isu.
It's supposed to be Isu, yeah.
It just didn't look like it.
Yeah.
But and that was, the Dead King story itself was, I never quite understood that, what was going on. Like, suddenly Napoleon's arrested? What? Like, when did that come into play? And, like, I didn't care that much for that itself, the narrative of it, but there were cool aspects of it, like the head of Saint-Denis and the underground catacombs, which, as I said, were super cool to explore and really, you know, amplified this whole, you know, post-medieval vibe we see throughout the main game. Also with the Helix Rifts. Do you remember those? Like in the quarry?
That's actually how you should unlock Altair's outfit right now. Through the Helix missions.
Oh yeah. Because I actually haven't unlocked Altair's outfit yet, from how I remember it.
And a lot of people are struggling over that. I also struggled over that for like a year ago. But then I started collecting all the artifacts until a notification came that you have unlocked a new outfit, and that was Altair's.
Oh, that's great.
Outfit. Yeah.
Like, in general, the Helix Rifts were a cool addition. There was everything from, what was it, La Belle Époque, you know, like late 1800s to World War II to the medieval times and whatnot.
Yeah, the World War II was funny, like Arnold shooting with machine gun. What the hell?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, as I said, overall, like, there were a lot of post-medieval vibes in the game. There are many aspects of it, and that was one of my favorite elements about it.
Yeah.
And I think, have you heard that rumor that we might get a game set in medieval France? Actually.
Yeah.
That would tie in. Perfect. It could almost be a prequel. It could almost be a prequel to Unity, the same way Rogue is a prequel to AC3.
Yeah.
So
also, I don't know like how this is going, but a new DLC has been leaked for Valhalla, and that is Meteor, something like that.
Yeah, the Siege of Paris.
No, a third DLC has been leaked.
Oh,
for
okay.
Valhalla. Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
And the name is the same code name as the Rogue, Assassin's Creed Rogue. Meteor, something like that.
We might see some of this very soon. Who knows?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the voice actor of Eivor, Magnus Braun, he posted a photo that he is doing the voices again. So that might be the third DLC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But overall, Dead Kings was a cool little expansion. I liked parts of it, not the main narrative, but the map was pretty cool. Like the catacombs were really cool to explore. You know, you were down there all by yourself, and it's really dark and creepy, and the broken down cathedral and the guillotine gun, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say that. In my opinion, the spotlight of the Dead Kings was the guillotine gun.
It was, and yeah, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was that memorable. An expansion, at least narrative-wise, but more in terms of gameplay, I would say. Yeah, there was some cool gameplay, and as you said, Arno, you know, it's another sad story for him. Like, from how I understand it, after Elise's death, like, Arno, what was it? He started drinking again. Like, he started drinking heavily. Then, you know, this happens. This is after his big, like, relapse or something. Or before, I can't quite remember. But there was some times where he started drinking heavily, and And
the drinking in Versailles is before Alice's death.
It is, but from how I understand it, after the main story ends in Unity, like he fell out at some point and started drinking heavily again, and then Dead Kings is shortly after that chronologically.
Yeah.
From how I understand it. And then what was it? After Dead Kings, he went to Africa for a while? Is that correct?
I remember that.
He talks about that, like, if you can get me on a ship to Africa, I will help you or something.
That is interesting. I haven't heard it.
I think there was something with that. Anyway, I don't know too much about that. Let's leave that for the comic experts or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I think we missed that. The main ending of, the main game was
Honestly,
powerful. In the temple and Arno losing Elise and him, slowly killing Chamon. Slowly putting the blade into his throat. That was
full of hatred.
Yeah, that was powerful. Overall, I think Unity was just a lot of great things about it, and I think the fact that it was unplayable when it came out, that it had the worst launch imaginable, destroyed its reputation, and that is why it's taken such a long time for it to slowly getting love now, here almost 7 years later.
Exactly, the launch was really effective.
And when I started playing it, that was after 3 years, it came out, I had no problems with it whatsoever.
The game is a lot more stable right now. It still has its performance issues, like frame rate drops.
Maybe. I've just never experienced it. For me, it's been smooth, and I've always had a lot of fun with Unity, and I think there are still a few achievements I need to get, so there's still some hours in it for me, so yeah.
The chest very well for
yeah.
the trophy.
I think I'm, 72% in without achievement? So
keep up the work.
Yeah, and there's probably, and I think there's also a few co-op achievements I still need to get and whatnot. So yeah.
I don't know how. I was lucky enough that I achieved them pretty soon. I don't know how.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. But other than that, Unity is just overall a really great game. Maybe not the strongest one story-wise, narrative-wise, I'd rather say.
Yeah.
But gameplay-wise, brilliant. Map-wise, phenomenal. Absolutely.
Exactly. Totally agreed.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to cover here finally?
At the end, I just want to say that Unity was really ahead of its time. It really was a gem that people didn't understand it due to the many problems it had at launch, like the performance issues, bugs, etc.
Maybe in
reality, it really is an underrated game. I think it's the most underrated game.
Yeah, definitely.
In the franchise.
Maybe in reality, it would have been smart for Ubisoft to release it later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was the fact that they just really wanted to, keep it an annual title, or the higher ups at Ubisoft wanted that. All that stuff that, hit the spotlight last summer. All those controversies, but they wanted to keep it an annual title, and it was this new, really powerful game engine that just wasn't polished enough.
Yeah,
and
like the trailers that was coming out from Unity, it was like the next gen Assassin's Creed, all of that stuff. That was pure hype. Absolutely,
and I've also seen some people say that it was due to the terrible launch of Unity that the AC franchise actually slowly started declining after.
That's actually true, yeah.
Yeah, because
Syndicate came up.
Yeah, Syndicate was. I'll talk about that in one of the next episodes, but I loved Syndicate, and from how I remember the reviews at the time, a lot of people said that was, a great comeback. Like 9 out of 10, and 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10.
I agree with that.
I loved Syndicate.
Punches and stuff. They were real fun.
Yeah. But yeah, we can maybe talk more about the fall of Assassin's Creed in a later episode or whatnot. So yeah. But other than that, I think we've covered it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I just want to thank everyone for watching and listening to another episode of The Memory Corridor. And to stay up to date on everything happening here on the channel and more things Assassin's Creed, such as AC photography from both me and Armin. Links to everybody's social media pages are down below, should you be interested in that. And as I always say, feedback and or topic ideas are more than welcome in the comments down below. So, thanks for watching and listening, everyone. Hope to see everyone again for the next retrospective we're going to be doing. And I can actually say, for episode 20, the next one, I'm planning something big. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's going to be big. It's going to be special. It's going to be cool. So tune in there when that rolls out. And until that comes out, thanks for joining me. I hope you had a fun time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, much appreciated. It really meant a lot. And, talk about Unity.
Yeah.
It really was fun.
You're welcome to come back anytime. So that sums it up for episode 19 of the Memory Corridor. Stay safe and active, everyone. See you later, Assassins. Peace.